Let's take a closer look at the conflict and the prospects for a lasting end to the violence. We're joined by Ratner. He worked in the U.S. State Department under the Obama administration. He's now a fellow at the Truman National Security Project. I want to get your thoughts on the truce deal in just a moment, but let's talk about the events of the day. Roe's report, just there's problems here, problems there, a lot of what we've seen over the last 4 weeks. Your thoughts as we move into this potential truce?
Well, we've seen several truces before, and we've seen several attempts to get truces before, and they've all broken down. Now, I think at this particular moment, the sides are to some degree exhausted. So this has a better chance of success. For the Israelis, they're particularly concerned about world public opinion. For the Gazans, particularly concerned about casualties and discontent among the civilian population. So there is a higher likelihood that this will succeed, at least for the 72 hours, but certainly no guarantees.
Well, you mentioned 72 hours. Egypt says the talks will continue after that. Where are they likely to go?
I think they're likely to go to something akin to what happened in 2012, where there is a ceasefire on the basis of quiet for quiet. Now, what both sides want is something much broader. The Hamas and certainly the Palestinian population wants an opening of the embargo on the Palestinian, on Gaza, both from Egypt and from Israel. What the Israelis want is a demilitarization of Gaza. And both of those are very difficult things to achieve. So I think there'll be a long-term discussion about that, and hopefully even a long-term discussion about peace prospects beyond that, but there's no guarantees, certainly.
Can you talk to me about objectives? In wars, there's the objectives of war, but then these wars, these conflicts, there tend to be the objectives of public relations, public perceptions. Who's winning what war?
Well, I think what's particularly complicated this is there's multiple public perceptions. So on each side, there's the internal public perception. So in both cases, both the Israeli government and Hamas look quite good at home. Public opinion in Israel is quite positive of the Netanyahu administration. Hamas, we don't have polling in the way we do in Israel, but they seem to have gotten a boon internally from standing up to Israel and from continuing to fight. Externally, Israel is certainly suffering public opinion-wise in most countries around the world, in Europe, in Asia, in Latin America, and even in the United States, where there's still much more support for Israel on a generational basis. Among younger people, there's much more questioning of Israel's policies. Palestinians have aroused deep sympathies in many parts of the world, but certainly deep skepticism of Hamas as an organization and institution. And even within the Arab world, in fact, especially within the Arab world, there's deep skepticism of Hamas as an organization from other Arab governments.
You didn't work too far from here, the State Department. I'm sure you're probably thankful you're not there now. But it really, things have not changed over the years at the State Department. There's been so many efforts to try and revive peace talks. Of course, John Kerry had this 9-month objective. That seems like ancient history. Former Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell started off the Obama administration. He was going to do something. What's it going to take to actually really get both sides to sit down and work out some kind of agreement? Or is it just folly to think that it can happen?
Well, the great tragedy of Israeli-Palestinian peacemaking is that everyone knows what the outcome looks like. Give or take a percentage here or there, it's the Israelis are going to leave and withdraw basically the 1967 lines with agreed swaps. There's going to be some sort of symbolic recognition of Palestinian refugees. There's going to be a division of Jerusalem. There's going to be recognition of Israel as a Jewish state in some sort of with equal rights for minorities, and there's going to be an end to the conflict. That's what the deal is. Everyone knows it, and we can't get there. Doesn't mean we won't be able to get there, but it's a very difficult very, very difficult negotiation, particularly because it's very difficult for each side internally to grapple with that reality.
I talked to somebody who was involved early on in peace negotiations, and he said you always have to look at the glass half full. Would you agree?
I think you have to look at the glass as it is. I mean, the reality is there's things to be said that the situation can be improved, and even if not a final agreement, the situation can certainly be improved over what it's been for the past 3 weeks. And there's very daunting tasks. There's very daunting tasks between the two parties, and there's very daunting tasks regionally. Bear in mind, this is just one crisis in a region of many crises permanently, and they all are interacting with each other.
Ratner, always a delight having you in. Thanks so much for your insights. Appreciate it.